Welcome into today's episode of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. It's Wednesday, November 19th. My name is Madelyn Burke, alongside the Super Bowl champion, Shaun O'Hara. The phone number here is 201-939-4513, or you can find us on social media using hashtag GiantsChat. Just a reminder, an archive of this show and our entire podcast network is available on the Giants mobile app, podcast platforms everywhere, and giants.com/podcast. Thanks for joining us from the Giants podcast studio, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. Happy hump day, Shaun. Wednesday, my dudes.
Hey, Mike.
Guess what day
it
is?
Middle of the week. And wow, as you rattled off the date, November 19th.
I know.
I can't believe we're here already. Like, Thanksgiving is next week.
Yeah.
And
they're already in the city, in Manhattan. They have the Christmas tree stands up already.
Oh yeah.
Like, everybody's buying their Christmas trees already. Like, it's time.
The holiday cup at Starbucks has been out for a while. That's been blazing for a couple weeks now. But yeah, the city is starting to prep up. I think the tree's already there. I think they're decorating it currently right now. Mm-hmm. That's always kind of like the signal for, like, all right, here we are. It's Christmas time. But yeah, here we go. I mean, we got a beautiful day out there today, but the weather has definitely turned a little bit. This is like one of my favorite times of the year, football-wise. Mm-hmm. Like, as you're morphing into the best holiday of the year, Thanksgiving, we got food, we got football, we got family, we got fun. It doesn't get any better than that. But I tell you, it's always fun to hang out with you and to talk football. I'm bummed I wasn't there for the post-game show on Sunday. I know we'll probably rehash some of that as well, but
you were busy celebrating
Giants
another
Lions.
F, which is a freaking fantastic win by the Franklin Lake War Eagles.
Yes, yeah, that was fun. Franklin Lake's War Eagles were in the Super Bowl on Saturday night against Kickoff, and it was a battle. I mean, it went down to the wire, down to the last play of the game twice. And the War Eagles came out victorious. Kids were so fired up. It was a really cool moment for the entire Franklin Lakes team, the players, the coaches, the families. A lot of fun.
Coach O'Hara over here, coaching these kids up.
Yeah. It's I tell you, the O'Hara record in Super Bowl is still unblemished. So I'm thankful that my son Jack is keeping that thing clean. But Kevin Beelan, our head coach, he's done a great job all year long. We've got a great coaching staff. But Beelan has been there before. He did a great job with the kids, getting ready. And the War Eagles, we put it on them.
Got it done.
Yeah,
Take care
a lot
of
of fun.
business, TCB. To take care of some business here, we've got some updates for you. Mike Kafka, interim head coach Mike Kafka, is speaking to the media currently as we speak. The big news coming out of his media availability, running back Eric Gray, his window is being opened today, coming off IR. And Jackson Dart, who's been in the concussion protocol, missed last week's game due to a concussion. He will be a non-contact participant at practice today, which in quarterback terms is just regular practice. But yes, will be, I assume, listed as limited as he works his way back onto the field. Still remains to be seen what his status will be for Week 12 against Detroit, but a good sign for Jackson Dart as he works his way back.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the concussion protocol is, look, you don't just take a week off and then bam, you're thrown right back out there, out full go, ready to rock. So you kind of vamp up a little bit. And I think anytime, players have dealt with a concussion or something similar to that, as you work back into working out, it's all right, let's kind of escalate the regimen and the rigorous activity, and just make sure that as you increase the exercise and the intensity of the exercise, do any of the symptoms come back? Because
Right.
that is always one thing that happens sometimes. If you get a concussion, you start working out again, and now all of a sudden, the headache comes back or the symptoms come back. So that's kind of why you get kind of eased into the rigorousness of practice or working out. And obviously, you hope as a player, hey, you come back, you start working out and you feel like yourself again, you feel great. Mm-hmm. That is how you know that you're trending in the right direction.
Right. And sometimes it takes time to power through, and not just the physical activity. Obviously the Lions play in a dome at Ford Field, and so the Giants are practicing inside today in the field house, not not inconvenient considering how chilly it is out there. But when you're practicing inside, the sounds are a bit louder, that element too, when you're coming back from a concussion. If you've never had a traumatic brain injury like that before, I would liken it to for our above 21 listeners over there, like the worst hangover you've ever had times 10.
Well, you're speaking from experience.
Yeah, I've had several.
Multiple
concussions. I'm not talking about my hangovers here. Yes.
Both.
I did go to Arizona State.
Yeah, guilty.
I mean, both things can be true, but yes, I have had several concussions.
Yeah.
And they are not fun.
You were part of that forked up life, down in Arizona State. But yes, the concussion, firsthand, it's, everybody's different, but sometimes even just being in the sun or being in the lights, it could be visual.
Yeah.
The symptoms that you feel, it could be auditory.
Yeah.
Loud noises that could be, you could kind of all of a sudden feel a little bit more, a little extra sensitive, hypersensitive, if you will, to some of those.
And the headaches, the nausea, the inability to focus, all of that kind of stuff comes rushing right back if you're not quite ready to get back into it full-fledged. So again, wishing Jackson Dart a speedy recovery as he gets ready to work his way back on the field. When you look at, obviously we talked about this a little bit before, but last week's game, Jameis Winston came out. He did a great job. Kafka praised him for being so decisive. But for that final play, he was very accurate. Not final play, but that final
that red zone
throw intended for Jalen Hyatt that was intercepted. Jameis was very accurate. I think going into that week, a lot of Giants fans and NFL fans in general kind of jest about Jameis's history of being, he'll throw a bunch of touchdowns and a bunch of picks and which one comes out, on top. But he, decisive, accurate, and took control of that offense. The offense, again, continues to kind of show. I mean, Shaun, we've done many years of post-game shows where the Giants couldn't eclipse that 20-point mark offensively. They're able to put points on the board, just not quite stopping the other team from doing that more, we'll say.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I think Jameis played well. And I think leading up to that game, it was, okay, what is Jameis going to bring to this offense? Obviously, he's more of a pocket quarterback, pocket thrower. So that element of it is going to change. You're not going to see, as many move the pocket passes like you would with Jackson Dart. And you're not going to see the quarterback design runs like you would have seen with Jackson Dart.
But we did see him run too.
He did.
Celebrated like he had ants in his pants going on that.
Yeah. He's got the dad dance down, the dad moves. But I think, Jameis did a great job. The opening drive, they marched down the field 9 plays. They score a touchdown and 2 touchdowns in the first half alone. And I felt like he did a great job getting the ball out, and it was in rhythm. And I think that's his confidence in the offense. Obviously, just his experience that, hey, look, I'm going to take what they're giving us and just keep moving the sticks, keep moving the chains.
Well, you mentioned that opening drive too, though, that first 15 plays is scripted, right? And so when you look at the fact that this is Mike Kafka's first game at the helm as interim head coach, and that the scripted design plays and how effective that first drive, what does that say about Kafka as well?
Well, I think that just signals that, Kafka is pliable and his offense and his ability to kind of morph things. Now, look, I think he obviously has been with Jameis all year long. He understands, just through practice, through preseason, when we did see Jameis, here's what he likes. Here's what he throws well. Jameis likes to throw the ball outside the numbers. He's got a really good arm. He likes to drive the ball and throw some deep outs. And I think that's kind of where he really excels. And I think that's easy if you're Mike Kafka, if you're Shea Tierney, and you're looking at, okay, what plays fit this quarterback the best. It's easy to kind of go through and say, all right, here's where we're going to try to attack. Now you go into the game and you say, all right, what's the coverage? What are they playing? And I think, early on there was a lot of zone. So you saw Jameis kind of finding some of those windows. And I think he did a really good job with that. The thing that Jameis, and I think if you're a receiver, you love playing with Jameis because that ball's coming out. People, look, the knock on him is, and I feel like it's kind of a lazy narrative. Well, Jameis is going to throw some interceptions. Yes, okay, Jameis, there are some interceptions that come with that. I call them trust throws. It's when the quarterback he's throwing the ball before you're open. He trusts you're going to be in a spot. And that's been a big part of Jameis's game. And, look, there's only 11 quarterbacks that have ever thrown for 5,000 yards in a season. Jameis is one of them. Yeah. Right? It was that monster year that he had. He threw for over 5,000 yards. He led the league in touchdowns, also led the league in interceptions, but he's going to let it rip. And I think that's, what you want. If you're a receiver, you want a quarterback that's going to rip that ball out there and give me a chance to make the play. And I think ultimately that came back to bite him at the end of the game. That throw you're talking about, 3rd and 6, they're down in the red zone, and he throws it's a trust throw. I'm throwing this ball because I see the coverage this way, and I'm expecting my receiver to drive out of the route and to be there to try to make this play. Every receiver in the NFL would love to have that opportunity. Now, do you blame Jameis Winston for trusting his receiver? I can't blame him for that. He took a shot. Look, here's the decision I made. The only thing that I would say on that play is, as I went back and looked at it, Madelyn, on film, 3rd and 6, you're driving down, you're trying to get his touchdown. There was a chance for Theo. Like Theo, a little stop route right at the sticks, 3rd and 6. If he had thrown it to Theo, he probably would have got the first down. Now you've got another set of downs to try to take another shot in the red zone. But I don't fault Jameis for making that throw, because he felt like, look, I'm giving my receiver a chance to make a big play, and then you come back forward on 4th down, and now you go for the first down to move the sticks and get a new set of downs, because the time wasn't an issue.
Yeah, and you mentioned too, Jameis taking the swing, not just for the opportunity of, let's go touchdown here instead of just moving the sticks, but also, we saw in the preseason a couple of times how Jameis and Jalen connected for a couple of touchdowns. And we've also seen the narrative around Jalen this season, and I can imagine Jameis saying, all right, let me put you in a position to make a play here.
Yeah.
Let me help HBO, help a brother out. And he did. He put him in that position. Unfortunately, Jalen wasn't able to make that play, but I think that probably went into that decision as well. Theo is leading the team in, receiving touchdowns this season. Theo's got the numbers, got that good. And it's like, when you're deciding, who am I going to give this opportunity to? Let's give it to a guy who I think, could use that big ups right now.
Yeah, and he was going for the touchdown, and I think that just lets you know what Jameis, where his mindset was at. Like, hey, I'm putting this in the end zone. I'm trying to score.
Yeah.
And HBO, help a brother out. Well, instead HBO stood for hang a brother out. And he hung him out to dry, because Jalen Hyatt, clearly, if you watch that play back, Jalen Hyatt did not think the ball was coming to him, which is a cardinal sin. As a receiver, you run the route as if.
Always run it.
You act as if I'm getting this ball. And any receiver worth a darn, you get up to the line, like, this ball's coming to me. I'm running the route with urgency, and I'm going to run. If that ball comes to me, I'm ready.
If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
You can never be in that position where, oh man, I didn't think the ball was coming to me, so I half-assed my route, which is what he did. And you know what? There's no excuse for that. So look, if I'm the coach, like, guess what, Jalen Hyatt, you're not getting, you're done. I'm giving somebody else an opportunity. And also, if I'm a quarterback, you hang me out to dry like that, guess what? You're done. Like, you're dead to me. I'm not coming back to you in that situation until you prove to me that I can trust you. So he's got to build that trust back, not just with his teammates, but with his quarterback, with his coach, with everybody. Yeah. And that's on him. And it's not, I'm not being critical of the person. I'm being critical of the play. Right. As a player, you don't ever want to put on film that you were loafing, that you were half-assing anything. So you run every single route. Whether you're a receiver, whether you're a running back, you're a tight end, you're an offensive lineman, you play every play 100%. And if somebody can turn on the film and say you were loafing or you didn't finish a play, man, that's got to sting. Yeah, don't give them a reason to knock you. In that circumstance, yeah, especially with the game on the line, right? Like, that makes zero sense. And there's no guarantee the Giants would have won that game. I mean, Kafka did say that had they scored there, they would have gone for 2. So it would have taken not 1 but 2 plays in that moment to get the win in that game. Would have been great to have that opportunity. Remains to be seen how that would have unfolded, regardless. But inevitably, the Giants did fall to the Packers 27-20, and that was the final. A tough loss. Yeah, which, to your point, like, the Packers, their offense had been stinking up the joint. Yeah. I think they had 16 points the previous 2 weeks combined, and it was like, all right, we don't want this to be the get-right game. And then, boom, there they go. They scored 27 points, and that's what you were hoping wouldn't happen. You hope to kind of keep them stuck in neutral on offense, and it didn't happen. Right. But I will say this, just kind of that game on a macro level. Like, the story in my mind with that game coming in was, can this Giants offensive line protect Jameis? Because now you don't have the athletic quarterback back there in Jackson Dart that can get out of a pressure or run away from things if the pocket collapses. And I thought the offensive line did a good job. Look, there were a couple sacks in the game, a couple of hits, there was a couple of plays that happens, but dude, Micah Parsons and Rashawn Gary on the other side, I thought the tackles did a really nice job, for the most part. Jermaine Illuminor, held up on the right side, and Andrew Thomas, there were a bunch of times he was one-on-one with Micah Parsons, and that was a fun battle to watch. But Micah Parsons didn't wreck the game. Mm-hmm. How many times did we play the Dallas Cowboys and we could not block Micah Parsons? We had zero answer for him. That was not the case in this game, and I think you have to give credit to the offensive line and give credit to Kafka and Carmen Prazzillo and Shea Tierney and all the offensive coaches, Tim Kelly, who was the passing game coordinator, for finding a way to give help when needed and make sure that those guys didn't wreck the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Giants fans, make sure you go and subscribe to the Giants Huddle podcast. It features long-form interviews with Giants players, coaches, and front office staff, past and present. Plus, hear from the best analysts covering Big Blue and the NFL. Search for Giants Huddle and subscribe on your favorite podcast platforms, or go to giants.com/podcasts. And don't forget, if you're on Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star positive review for all of our Giants podcasts. 201-939-4513 is the phone number. Let's go to the phone lines. They're lighting up, starting with Jamie in New Jersey. Jamie, welcome to the show. You're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Shaun and Madelyn. Jamie, can you hear us?
Yep.
Oh, there you are. Hi, welcome to the show. You're on live.
I don't like that.
You don't like that?
Mm-mm.
Uh-oh. Well, thank you for calling. What do you got going on over there?
Just chilling and grilling in New Jersey.
Amazing. Amazing. Did you have a comment or a question?
No, ma'am.
No? All right.
Nope.
Well, thank you for calling and for listening to the show, and have a great day. That's a first,
Okay.
Just calling to just chilling and grilling.
Okay.
I mean, hey, listen, it's a little chilly outside, but I respect that you're committed to the grilling. Let's change it up then. Let's go to line 2, Wilson in Roxbury. Wilson, welcome to the show. You're on with Shaun and Madelyn.
Madelyn, how you doing? Shaun, how are you? Madelyn, looking beautiful like always.
Thank you.
This is mostly for Shaun. Probably going to get him upset, but hey, what the hell? That's what I call for, to get everybody riled up.
You buttered up Madelyn, and now you're bringing the heat to me. Okay,
well,
I got it.
I see you, Wilson.
Shaun, that'll be kind of weird. But now, listen, Shaun, all kidding aside.
Yeah.
The Giants have given a blueprint to all the other 31 teams how not to run a franchise, because there's dysfunction and there's the Giants. As painful as that is for me to say, because I love this team for over 45 years. I mean, first, start by you bring back a head coach and general manager that won 9 games in 2 years, and you get rid of the coach in the middle of the season because you knew you made a mistake. Somehow, they still want to keep this horrendous general manager on top of all that. Then I got to hear, and then all the rumors, Brian Dable was toxic environment, and which nobody wanted to believe, but nobody wakes up one morning and makes stuff up. Something was there. Then I got to hear, Joe Shane threatening Jason Pinnock, hey, listen, you don't sign this deal, don't pay your mortgage, I'm going to cut you. Crazy stuff like that, bad teams let play out. Then put that on the side. Put that on the side, okay? Put on the side. Then I got to see. Basically, remember, the first year of a Madelyn season, he was in concussion protocol. Then they see him at a concert. Nobody said nothing, no repercussion whatsoever. Then I gotta read that this kid Carter was sleeping through a walkthrough. Whether it's true or not true, I mean, nobody just kind of wake up and make that up. But I gotta see that. And then on top of all that, I gotta see this kid that just had major leg surgery on the TV, acting like a fool with no shirt on, shoving people, this, that, and a WWE.
First of all, Cam did have his shirt on.
You can't make it up, Shaun. You can't. This is why the Giants are the laughing stock of the NFL. Until they get somebody here that's gonna say, you do that one more time, you out of here. You do this one more time, you out of here. It's the only way it's gonna change. And for you to tell me that Joe Shane should come back, I love you. I love you, Shaun. I love you. But it's an insult to every Giants fan. They have to clean house from the kid that folds the towels all the way up to the cook that cooks the meals. It's got to be 100% a clean slate. because this is what happens when you have a dysfunctional franchise that everybody, the whole NFL, laughs at because of these things. And thank you for taking my call.
All right. Thank you for the call, Wilson. And listen, I know this was directed at you, Shaun, but I have a couple fact checks before we
don't let the truth get in the way of a good call
story,
here.
right?
You know,
Exactly.
I mean, he's unloading. You know, he had everything in the chamber
got,
right there.
Yeah.
You know, and he's got receipts, and he's obviously very passionate, which
and
we
fired
appreciate
up.
the passion, but
We love the passion.
all right, let's just chill.
But first of all, so the report of Abdul falling asleep, he clarified he wasn't asleep, he was in treatment. And one of the big issues was, not issues, but changes when Mike Kafka took over as interim head coach. He changed the schedule. The off day is now Monday. It's a practice day Tuesday. There's a lot of scheduling changes that have happened, and I think it was a honest rookie mistake, a miscommunication or what have you. He was in treatment at the time that he was supposed to be out on the field, didn't understand that because of the scheduling changes, admitted and owned up to that, and had a conversation with Kafka about it, and that was where that came down. Cam Scadaboo at WWE, he did have his shirt on, Wilson. He was wearing a Rangers jersey. I feel like I tweeted this out also the other day, and I feel like I told a bunch of grown men that Santa isn't real because I reminded everyone to take a deep breath and remember just how well choreographed WWE is. It's not just an actual fight. It's something that is planned and choreographed. And Scott was there with several teammates and members of the coaching staff. Mike Kafka at his media availability today said that, he's good with it. The team knew about this. The team organized the players being there. So yes, I get that the optics of, oh wow, he's hurt. He wasn't in real harm's way. He wasn't in danger. And what do you expect? This guy, yes, he had surgery. He's in recovery. He's cleared to, walk around and live his life. Do you want him to just sit in a dark room until he's fully healed to play football, or can he live his life a little bit?
It's a tough one for me.
Yeah.
Because I've been in that situation where I was a player that was hurt. Mm-hmm. And I'll be damned if I'm a hurt player and I'm going to be out like on the town.
Okay.
Especially if I'm in a boot. Like, I'm not going to the club. I'm not going out, like walking around. So I don't think that Cam Scadaboo should just hole up and be in his apartment and not be able to live his life and go do stuff. But I don't have an issue with him being at the WWE event.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was at the UFC event as well. And it's like, okay, you know what? Like, you go do an event. Like, if it was a movie, go to a movie. You go see a Broadway show, whatever. Like, I'm not hammering him for that, and I'm not upset about that. But I do think that there's an optic that I think you have to be aware of. And there's also, it's one thing to go to a show, and then it's another thing to kind of be a part of it and, be standing up and then kind of be involved in a pseudo fracas, and, there's some physical element to it. I don't think it was a good look. Do I think it's, I'm not going to make a mountain out of a molehill. Like, look, this is a young kid that, is, went out with his teammates. I think there was a lot of rookies that were there, and they kind of went as a group.
Abdul Carter was standing right beside him. Roy Robertson Harris beside him.
I think, look, if the Giants were 8-2 right now, this would be a non-issue.
Right.
But when you're losing, everything gets magnified. So I think just awareness with that. Look, Jackson Dart was not there. That would have been a very bad optic for him, being in concussion protocol, and now you're out doing all this stuff, like you said about Malik Neighbors.
Right.
And I think those are things that. What's the common denominator with all that? Malik Neighbors did that his rookie year. Cam Scadaboo, he's a rookie. Mm-hmm. Abdul Carter missed something because he was in treatment, missed a walkthrough. Those are things that happen with young kids. And, I've got a son as well. And you know what I do? I correct the behavior. All right. We make sure, hey, look, this is a learning opportunity. This is a lesson to be where you can learn something. It's not a loss. L stands for learning. All right, and now we move forward with it. Well, we don't hold it. We're not going to crucify them for this. This is not, this is not an egregious act. And oh my gosh, you committed a crime, and we're going to string them up. No. All right. Here's what we expect of you. We want you to make good decisions going forward. Sometimes the best way to learn that is to make a bad decision, and then you learn from it. And look, I don't think anybody in this building is like, I can't believe that Cam Scadaboo would do that. And why? Hey, you know what? It happened. All right, let's learn from it. Moving forward, let's maybe put ourselves in a better position going forward and make a good decision. It doesn't need to be this, this Molotov cocktail that is just exploding now, and that, the Giants have lost control of this and that, and the players like.
It's also important to remember that unlike UFC, where Cam went and he was there for Oakley and for a brand partnership that he did, this WWE thing that he went to with several teammates and, again, several members of the coaching staff as well, was coordinated by the team. So the team was a part of this plan. This was an opportunity brought to them from the New York Giants. This is something that the organization, if they didn't want to support Cam Scadaboo going, they wouldn't have given him the ticket and brought him along with them. This was something that has been planned and was coordinated by people inside the building. This wasn't just him texting the group chat, hey, you guys want to go do this tonight?
Yeah.
And so that's also,
I think the overriding theme and what Wilson was just, spewing at us was he's fed up with all of the drama, and he's fed up with all the stuff. And you know what? As a fan, I understand the frustration, and I go back to this is the passion of the fans. This is what you love about the fans. Like, don't lose that passion, Wilson.
Sure. Yeah.
And we get that you're frustrated. I understand it. We're not firing the towel guys. We're not firing Jose. Like, they're not clean. Like,
that man is job security.
These are the same people that a couple years ago the Giants went into Minnesota and won a playoff game with, right? With a brand new head coach. Daniel Jones and Isaiah Hodgins, and a team that had no business winning a playoff game did it with that same coaching staff. So if you want to bash them when things aren't going well, you also just have to remember what they did with less talent just a few years ago. Those are the same people. So I think, you just kind of have to look at it as a whole part. Like, these are whole people. Have they made some mistakes? Absolutely. Are there some freckles and blemishes and moles? Yes. Okay. But are they learning from that? That's what you have to do. Now, the accountability aspect of it, look, I think there's a number of different aspects of it. The locker room accountability. I want to be accountable to my teammates. There's that part of it. I want to be accountable to the Giants. Like, they drafted me. These are the people. So I want to make sure that if I'm going out in a team event like that, am I representing the Giants, my teammates, my coaches, and the franchise in the right way? I don't think Cam Scadaboo did anything wrong.
No, I agree.
So I think, maybe he could have said, I'm not going to be a part of the physical aspect of it. I'll be there, alongside of it, but I don't want to be physically involved in anything right now, given the fact that I've got a boot on and I just had surgery on my ankle. So that's, I think, a learning lesson for him going forward, but we're not going to put him on blast forever.
Exactly. And to your point about Jackson Dart not being there, there's a difference between Dart and Scat in the fact that Dart is in concussion protocol with a chance to play next week. If he was going to that but just missed the game the day prior, that would look bad because it's okay, you're not well enough to play in a game, but you're well enough to go do that. Scat has been ruled out for the season. Like, he is not going to get back on the field and help this team. He's on IR. He is not going to, it's not that he's doing this that's impeding him getting back on the field. This man wants more than anything to be back on the field. And also, too, there was a barricade in between the lower bodies of these guys. So it's like his foot was safe. He was in a good position. They're not going to put him in a position to injure him further. But I do understand the optics, especially for a guy like Wilson, who's just upset that he wants to see the team having more success on the field. And to your point, when that success on the field doesn't happen, everything else gets magnified.
I just had a memory kind of come back. Maybe, and it's probably because the wrestling is the common denominator here. There was an issue or a story back when the Chicago Bulls were in their heyday, and they went and picked up Dennis Rodman. It was kind of like it might have been their last championship. And Rodman was a wild child. This is back when he was, just uncontrollable. He was out of his mind. And he flew to Las Vegas and was a part of like a wrestling event in Vegas during the NBA season. And like he was in the ring like during the season. And there was like this whole big issue about, oh my gosh, should he be doing that? And it was kind of like Rodman was kind of held to a different standard. He was the wild child, so he wasn't expected to be buttoned up like everybody else. But the story from what I hear is that Rodman was in Vegas and Jordan flew to Vegas and got him on the plane to get him back to play the next game. And that is, nobody made a big deal about it because they won and because they were winning. So again, like I said, because the Giants are losing right now and the season feels lost again, that is why there's even more heat on all this stuff.
Yeah.
So, I think you kind of look. Let's let it kind of let the embers kind of chill out a little bit. I know everybody's kind of emotional with all that stuff and with what's going on, and I get it. And it's all derived from passion. But that was kind of something that creeped up, and it was like nobody had any issue with Rodman and with the Bulls doing that because they were winning.
Because they were winning and they were taking care of business on the court. And I think everyone knows their own limits and their own what they're capable of as individuals, and has their own priorities in order. And then you kind of go from there. The YouTube commenter Emmanuel Mora wants to know how I got these concussions, speaking of playing hurt. And so I'm not going to give you a full recount of all of them because there are a lot. But the very first one was when I was a kid. I was sitting on a tile floor and somebody pulled my legs and I went like that, hit the back of my head and was really, really hard. And then some from a car accident. I went through a windshield one time. That was not fun.
Ouch.
I got hit in the head with a football. That was a little bit, that was here.
Yeah.
And most recently, sometimes I faint. So some of them have come from that. And most recently, I started the season with a couple staples in the back of my head because I fainted and hit my head on a rock. And TKO, but not a TKO, just a KO for that one. Anyway. KO. We make light of it because it has to be funny, so it's not scary. But it happens, and as somebody who's experienced several of these, you kind of go through the motions and your own limits in a way. And I'm fortunate that my job does not entail getting hit by 300-pound men, because if you are concussed and you hit your head again, that can be very dangerous. And so fortunately, I just, the lights and the cameras and all that. And sometimes I'm better than others. I remember the football one. I did a show with you.
We had you on the DL for a while after that. Yeah, and the football one, that one, I feel like that one lingered for a while.
It did.
I think the other one that happened in the summertime. So I think you had a little more time to recover.
Yeah, and at that point, I was an old wily vet with dealing with those symptoms. I'm like, all right, let's power through. But
I think you were more upset about the hat on that one.
It did end up looking like roadkill. It was ruined. A little bloody. It was my Kurt Schilling sock moment, though. It was pretty good. No, I remember that football one. I did a show with you, Shaun, and there was a moment where I was like, I'm good, I'm clear. And Don Sperling kept looking at me. He's like, are you sure? You look a little glassy-eyed.
Deer in headlights.
And then we got on the set, and I just remember looking at you just like, please keep talking. I got that right now.
It's the lights,
the lights, the sounds. The
lights kind of.
All of it. Yeah, so would not wish that on anyone. It's a little bit more than a headache. But again, Jackson Dart out on the field. You can see videos of him stretching on social media right now and working his way back. 201-939-4513 is the phone number. Just want to remind you all, the Giants official connected TV streaming app Giants TV brings original video content and game highlights on demand and direct to Big Blue fans. Giants TV is free on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV, and the Giants mobile app. Let's head back to the phone lines. What a day, Shaun. Not only do we get Wilson, but we also get Charlie. We are getting some all-time BBK callers on the show today. Charlie in Maine, welcome to the show. Thanks for calling in. How you doing?
Hey, Madelyn. How are you? Hey, Shaun.
What's up, Charlie?
Hey, this is like tag team here. Your worst nightmare, Wilson and me. Hey, I got a question for you, Madelyn. I saw your podcast. Heard it was great. I appreciate it. You do a great job with it.
Thank you. Charlie, a big fan of her playbook. We just recorded another episode this morning.
Oh, did you? I'll have to watch it. Hey, my question is, can you fake it? Maybe that you've got symptoms, but somebody like Dart, who really wants to play, can he fake it and say, "No, I don't have a headache. No, I'm good." How do they know that this guy is telling them the truth? Or do they take brain scans and figure it out that he isn't?
I would liken a concussion to a sprained ankle, right? Bless you. When it first happens, you're like, ow, that hurts. But before the swelling kicks in, you're like, I can move my ankle. It looks normal. It feels normal. However, there are physical symptoms that when they bring you in for a concussion test, including in your pupils and the way your eyes move, that can tell. Even if you say I'm fine and you say you feel fine, if your eyes and your pupils move in a certain way, that is a signal that there is something to more there. But what I would say too is, sometimes when it first happens, before the swelling kicks in, because a concussion is essentially when your brain hits the side of your skull and your brain swells. So much like a sprained ankle, before it gets fully swollen, you still have a little bit more of your faculties and a little bit more of your understanding until that sets in. And then it starts to be like, oh, now it feels, once the ankle swells up, or your head, not actual head, but your brain. And that's when a little bit of those symptoms start to set in. So maybe not immediately, but, shortly thereafter. I mean, Victor Cruz will tell a story sometimes when, he got hit in a game and he got called over to do the concussion test, and they were asking him all these questions and he was getting all the answers right. And so they're like, okay, great, you're good to get back in the game. And he goes, what game? And they're like, oh, okay, maybe not. And so sometimes, you're like, oh yeah, I can tell you what year it is. I can tell you who the president is. I can tell you what my middle name is, all that kind of stuff, because these things come to you. But there are certain things that will happen, but mostly physiologically, that a medical trained staff will look at you and will be able to see, okay, there's something wrong, which is when, even if you come over to the sideline and you're like, yeah, my head hurts and I can answer all these questions, right? There are physical signs that will show, okay, maybe it's not safe for you to get back in the game.
Yeah. Listen, Charlie, let's preface this whole conversation with, we are not doctors. We did
not a doctor.
But I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. Look, the concussion thing. This is why it's such a tough thing to handle, because it's not like any other injury. Like what Madelyn's talking about with an ankle, or you're talking about brain scans. There are no brain scans that you can do for a concussion. Well, the only way you can really test the brain is post-mortem. So you do get a CAT scan to see if there's any brain bleed. Well, I mean, if you have a severe concussion, you get a CAT scan, but they're not giving CAT scans to everybody that has a concussion, or that thinks that they may have had a concussion. That's not happening on the medical tent,
right,
or at game day. But it's similar to like a field sobriety test, right? Yeah. So like you get pulled over and they have protocols that they go through to see, is your brain functioning like it normally would? So there are certain things that they will go through, like Madelyn was talking about. But I think today's player is different. 20 years ago, you would not go to the trainer and say, something's not off, or my head hurts. Like that was not how we handle it. We have progressed, and we are in a totally different area when it comes to TBI and when it comes to concussions and the protocol. So there is much more self-reporting now, and I think that players are more honest with their symptoms because they realize that the long-term damage that they could be doing. Now it's different than playing through, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to play through a fractured wrist. You're playing through a high ankle sprain or an MCL. These are ligaments. These are things where you can actually MRI them, you can x-ray them, and you can find out, here is what has happened. Okay, what is the percentage of that? I can make this worse, or this can be a long-term thing. So I think it's in a totally different environment with that. Now, the concussion stuff, everybody responds differently, everybody reacts differently. But for Jackson Dart, clearly he was not himself after it happened. Now, something happens, boom, you kind of get your bell rung. You're like, all right, I'm good. You go out, you run a couple more plays. And then maybe you go to the sidelines, and now you're like, you know what? I feel off. Something feels weird. And Dable even mentioned it. He's like, I noticed that he was acting a little bit off, a little bit strange. So when people see those behaviors, boom, all right, now you're into it, and now they're evaluating you. The one thing that I know the NFL does do is every player before the start of the season, when you take an annual physical, there is a neuropsych exam that you take that tests your reaction time, and they go through and they get a baseline. So once you have come back to your facility, they will put you through that same test to see, where are you? Has your baseline changed? Are there things that are showing up that is abnormal from where your baseline was when you had this exam a couple months ago? So those are all things that they take into play, and those are ways that they could try to figure out, all right, there's clearly been an injury. To what extent, we don't really know, but it's all symptom based. The other thing that I will add is, on every sideline in every NFL game, there is a neurosurgeon, and that is mandatory by the NFL. And he is on the sideline for these exact situations. If there is a head injury, he is the one that goes over there, and he is the one that assesses where they're at. He's the one that's in the medical tent and evaluating all that. So, look, the NFL has definitely made this a priority to them.
Yeah.
And I think anytime you see a player that is exhibiting those type of symptoms, we now know that these things are cumulative. So if you have one, you are more susceptible to having another one if you have not
Yeah.
completely healed and recovered from the previous one. So I think that's where we're at with this situation with Jackson Dart.
Yeah, because he was in the blue tent 4 times for concussion.
Right, but that doesn't mean he had a concussion every time. So
Right.
sometimes
No,
you get a
doesn't
hit. There's a
mean-
big
it doesn't
collision,
mean that,
and the
but-
referees down on the field have to say, "Hey, you know what? They get signal from the league. Look, there was a big hit.
Yeah.
All right, you're going to the medical
Yeah, I
tent.
know.
You get a concussion. There was no concussion. All right, there was no issue there. But because there was a big hit, and the referees saw something, you could have been holding your arm. You could have been down, hey, I got the wind knocked out of me, but they see a big hit and they see a player get up, and now you go to the medical tent and you go through that check and you're fine and you're good. So even though you went in the tent, it doesn't necessarily mean that you had a concussion or that there was a head
I know
injury.
that, but why, when he went into the tent and he came out and they let him out, and then he went and played 2 more plays, so somebody in the tent didn't figure it out that this guy had a concussion.
No, that's not accurate.
So-
No, because like I said, they went through the test, the field test, all right, and he showed no symptoms, no signs. And then he went out there and started running around, and now I was like, oh, you know what? Okay, now that I'm running around, I feel something feels off. And so to Madelyn's point, boom, it happened. You go over there, you're going through all the tests. Nothing revealed itself at that moment.
Much like a
But
sprained
as he
ankle
went
at
out,
first, it's like it looks fine.
you know
and
what?
then all
Then
of a
it
sudden,
kind of,
yeah.
all right, hey, you know what? Now that I'm moving around, now that I'm calling the plays, and now that I have to kind of, recall things, or I've got to speak and verbalize. The more that he did that, the more that, now all of a sudden the symptoms reveal themselves.
Right. So, Madelyn, what you're saying is sometimes it takes a little while for the brain to start swelling up. Well,
Again-
why don't they not let the player go back in for at least a series to find out if that's going to happen to that player? Why do they let them go right back in 2 minutes later?
Well, again,
that to me
I'm no
is
medical,
ridiculous.
I'm no doctor, and I think
Right.
also too, sometimes maybe the play that it happened. Like for example, how many times have you been like, "Wow, I feel really sick. Let me take a COVID test and see if it's COVID," and it's not COVID, and then maybe a week later it is COVID. Did you always have COVID, or did you get it later on? I don't know. Sometimes you feel that there's a lot of nuance to it. It's an imperfect science, but the NFL is doing its best to make sure that the players are protected and put in a position to be able to self-report too in a safe space of like, okay, maybe we caught this, maybe we didn't. It's an imperfect science, all of it. And whether you hold them out, because there's going to be another situation where a guy got the wind knocked out of him, and what do you want to do, just hold him out for a whole quarter just in case?
No, I didn't say a whole quarter.
Right.
But you can play it safe. But anyway, that's not why I really called. But since it was brought up, I just, But my main thing is with Winston, he had 4 plays that should have been intercepted. They were interception, turnover-worthy plays. The guys dropped it. Green Bay dropped it. If they just caught 2 of those, this game wouldn't even have been close. So, you can say Winston, lets the guys and he throws it and he lets them go after the ball and da-da-da. But if he should have had 5 interceptions, or maybe if they were counting the last one as the 4th, I don't know. But he definitely could have had 4 easily picks in that game. And this game would not even have been close. But that's all I wanted to say about that.
Yeah, well, the Packers were struggling to catch the ball on both sides of the ball because they also had about 3 or 4 drops. I think Romeo Dobbs had a couple of drops
they had
too.
a whole
So
bunch of drops
yeah, look, we all saw those plays too, and it was like, oh my gosh, we got lucky. And you know what, like
exactly.
But,
so, I just think, I like Winston. I mean, I like the guy, but is he going to change the direction of this team? We're headed for 2-11.
Nobody said
That's
he was.
where we're headed.
Nobody said he was, but he was playing because Jackson Dart was hurt. So you know what? I thought he did a good job. Like, look, every game Jameis Winston he has shown us he's going to make a couple throws that are dicey, and that's just the way he plays.
Yeah. All right, Charlie. Thanks so much for the call.
Okay.
We got a couple more to get to before we run out of time here. Giants fans, with another impactful draft and free agency class in the books, that means it's full steam ahead to the 2025 season, which we're in the midst of. Take your fandom to the next level with a season ticket membership. Catch all the action at MetLife Stadium with an exciting home schedule on the horizon. And with a membership, you'll also stay connected to the club all year round, not just on game days, with exclusive member access and benefits. To learn more about a New York Giants season ticket membership, visit giants.com/tickets, 201-939-4513. Let's go back to the phones. Joe in Connecticut. Joe, welcome to the show. You're on
Hey.
Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Hey, thanks for taking my call, Madelyn and Shaun. Love the show. I'm a longtime Giant fan, 72 years old. Go back to black and white TV, Y.A. Tittle, Frank Gifford, Sam Huff. And I don't know if you remember Kyle Rote, but Scat has his number. He was one of my favorite players, number 44.
Love it.
But I wanted to make 2 points. I played safety in high school and junior college, and I got concussed a few times. Go off the sideline, the doctor would say, "How many fingers do we have up?" Give you some ammonia and go back in. And I don't know. These players, I noticed a couple of end zone plays, like on the 3-yard line. I was watching some of these games. They shoulder bump instead of wrapping. How are they supposed to get a guy down in the 3-yard line shoulder bumping? He's going to bump right into the end zone. These guys' legs are strong. And the second point I wanted to know the tush push. If they vote that down, okay, does that mean the scrum? That means no more linemen pushing? I mean, this is not football, man. Guy catches the ball on the 20 and you push him to the goal line, to the 5-yard line? I mean, that's ridiculous, man. What am I watching here?
Yeah, it's definitely a play that has created some controversy. Thanks so much for the call, Joe, and thanks for being such a longtime fan and listener.
Joe,
push is
listen,
hard to officiate.
Yeah, I mean, with regards to all the things that you mentioned, like the game has changed, obviously, from, I grew up the same way. Like you got your bell rung, like you saw stars, took a couple seconds, and then you're back in the game. Things have progressed. We know now more than we knew back then. Just like when I was a kid, we didn't have car seats. Now we know more. All right, so we, it wasn't that we were negligent back then. We just didn't know what we know now, and we have, better science and better data and better awareness. With regard to tackling, dude, I'm with you. I don't understand that. I mean, I coach my son's football team, and I'm trying to get them to wrap up. That's one of the things we talk about. Bite the ball, wrap up around the hips. You don't come in there and just shoulder a guy and try to knock him down. So I don't understand that too. It's frustrating to see that as well, because I know these guys have been coached up to wrap and they're just not doing it. So, look, fine them. If I'm a defense coordinator, look, if you come up and you make a hit and you don't wrap up, I'm going to fine you. Like, you could find a way. Like, we'll find out how much it really means to you when we start taking money from you. With the final point about the tush push. Look, I've hated the quarterback sneak my entire life, because as a center, everybody ends up on top of you. It's like a pileup. It's a mosh pit. And, I've sprained an ankle on a quarterback sneak before. Guys have gotten hurt. But it is part of football. I think the Eagles have taken it to a whole nother level with making it a rugby-like play. I think that there is a science to it, because clearly they do it better than anybody else. They have found a way to do it better than anybody else. They clearly practice it. They coach it. They have it down to a science, and nobody can seem to stop it. It is frustrating because, it's like the crane kick that Miyagi taught Danielson. Like, if done properly, no one can defend. And we still have not been able to defend it. So I I think we have to be careful. Like, are people upset because nobody can stop it? Or are people upset because
credit to
people
the
are getting
Giants
hurt?
defense that did stifle it on 3 straight plays on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of like the unicorn opportunity. But I think when you look at it, like, people are saying we got to ban this play from football. Okay, are we trying to ban it because we don't like it visually, we don't like it optically, we don't like it because it's happening to our teams and we can't seem to stop it? That's not a reason to ban a play. If you can prove scientifically, and the NFL has look at injuries, all right? That's why the kickoff rule has changed multiple times. That's why they've changed the way that field goals and PATs are handled. You can't rush the long snapper, and you can't push on block like you used to be able to do. So you can't do that on defense, and I know there's some argument about why can we do it on offense. So you have to look at, if there's an injury, if this is definitely creating a higher percentage of injury, then I think it's a no-brainer. But I don't know that data is there yet, and I don't know what that looks like. But I think when you look at
that, and also the fact that it's hard to officiate, and as we've seen in that Giants game where they blew the whistle for forward progress, and there was questions around that, or the questions around, okay, are they jumping early? Who's jumping early? Can you really see who's jumping early with how close everyone is in that scrum? When you see, on the national broadcast, the camera zooming in and showing a guard perhaps crossing that line of scrimmage a little before the ball is snapped, those moments where it makes it challenging to officiate it, because much like injuries, the NFL's 1A priority is the integrity of the game as well. And if they can't keep the officiating to keep it the integrity there, that is the only other thing that I could see being a cause raised in this offseason.
I hear what you're saying about that, and that may be part of the conversation. But I will say this: based on the track record of the NFL, they don't care about being tough to officiate, because some of the things that they have allowed to happen as new rule changes has made it really hard on these officials. And I feel like they are in a damned if we do, damned if we don't kind of scenario a lot of times, way too often. And it's hard to be an official and to call these plays in real time. So yeah, that play with the scrum, you can't see the ball. It's hard to really determine all that stuff. But I think the conversation with what you're saying about, I don't think they're going to ban the tush push, but I think the conversations are, in that situation, because you brought up, if a receiver catches the ball, say you're on the 10-yard line and your tight end catches the ball on the 2-yard line. And now as an offensive lineman, I'm hustling down there and I push the pile into the end zone. That is different than the tush push or than the quarterback sneak. And the reason why is because it happens out in the field of play. So if there is a tweak to this whole, do we change the way you can do quarterback sneak? Maybe it is that you cannot aid a runner if that runner is on the line of scrimmage. You cannot do it in the backfield. You can't do it at the line of scrimmage. But if it happens outside of the line of scrimmage, outside of the quarterback tackle box, if that happens out there in the field of play, then that is allowed. So those are some of the tweaks that I know they're having conversations about. Do we limit it, and do we put the verbiage in there that it's allowed out in the regular field of play with a receiver, tight end, or running back that has caught a pass, or even a quarterback that has scrambled out and now is running? Now can you aid that runner across the first down or the end zone for a touchdown, as opposed to happening behind the center on the line of scrimmage, where now all of a sudden there's a huge pileup? So look, it's a conversation that I think is going to continue. Do I expect them to ban that play? No, I don't think so, because I don't think that the data is there from an injury standpoint for them to say, we're going to take this out of the game.
Yeah. I can see that. And, we'll see it. I'm sure will be brought up in league meetings in this offseason, and that conversation will continue. But how it'll shake out remains to be seen. 201-939-4513. Let's go back for a final call. Logan in New Jersey. Logan, thanks for calling in. You're on Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Hi, thank you. So what I want to know is, why has there not been a change at the defensive coaching position yet?
Great question. I don't know.
You have amazing players. I feel like Coach Shane Bowen, great guy, no disrespect, but I feel like he almost should have gone when Dable went. Is there a reason as to why? Do you think he should stay? If they clean house, do you think?
Neither one of us.
Do you think he should stay next year?
Neither one of us have that answer. We don't know why. We don't know what the conversations were. I'll speak from previous situations where I've heard that, a head coach comes in on a Monday after a loss and they are told, you need to fire your offensive coordinator, or you need to fire your defensive coordinator. And they have said, I'm not doing that. And then they said, okay, well, then you're fired. So I've heard of that happening. I don't know what went down. I don't know what the conversations were. But I think there's evidence on both sides. Like, if you wanted to make a change, I think there's evidence out there that you would be justified in doing that. I think if you were going to make a head coaching change, what you don't want to do is make a head coaching change and a defensive coordinator change.
Right, because there's
now we have
stability.
Now we're scrambling in multiple areas. Look, I think, the NFL is tough, and I know everybody wants to, hey, we fire this guy, fire that guy. Well, listen, I'm never been a fan of firing a head coach during the NFL season. And the reason why is because when you fire a head coach, somebody else has to do his job. Somebody else has to step up and now do their job and this new job. And, that's tough. That makes it tough on the coaches. They're already stressed out. They're already, not sleeping and, working crazy hours, and, they're grinding their way through it. So, there is something to be said for that. I don't know what went down with the conversations, and we don't know, what maybe their conversations were about. Here's where we're at. Here's where we need to see improvement, or this is happening, or, I don't know. But, I think that a lot of people were, look, there was a lot of people that came up to me and said, look, I was surprised that it was Daboll and not Shane Bowen. And, I don't think either one was the right way, and I don't think either way, you could say either way wasn't the wrong way either. A lot of times, you have to make a change just to kind of put everybody else on notice too, and players included. So, look, there's some validity what you're saying. I don't think either one of us are really privy enough to answer to you why this happened or why this didn't happen.
All right. Okay. Do you believe Bowen deserves to come back next year?
Next year? Well, look, I mean, I don't think anybody knows what's happening next year.
Yeah.
Like what it's let's get through this season and let's figure stuff out. There could be a whole new staff here. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a little premature to single out anybody on the staff as far as who's going to be here next year, because nobody knows.
Right. And oftentimes too, a new head coach comes in and they bring in their own people top to bottom. So remains to be seen who will stay, who will go, what the status will be with that.
I will say this.
And it's kind of I will say it's above my pay grade to make that decision.
Yeah, that's not up to us. But I will say this: Brian Billick, who I used to work with and did a ton of shows with, he was a great coach. He's a great man. He used to have this saying: "The things they hire you for are the things they fire you for." And I never understood it the first time he said it to me, and then the more it kind of marinated and he explained it to me. Shane Bowen was brought here to stop the run.
Yep.
Right. When he was hired as a defensive coordinator, this guy, when he was at Tennessee, they did a great job stopping the run. They were great at red zone. All right. Those are two of the things that we have not been good at. So, the things that we hired you for this was supposed to be your strength. And when they're not, now those are the reasons why you get fired. So, that happens in the NFL all the time. You see offensive coaches that, oh my gosh, this guy's phenomenal. He's a heck of an offensive coordinator. We're bringing you here to be a great offensive coach, and the offense sucks. And it's like, all right, well, that's why you got fired. We hired you because you were a good offensive coach, and your offense is the worst. So, those are things that I know are frustrating, because that was kind of Shane Bowen's calling cards. Where, hey man, we're going to be great against the run, and we're going to be great in the red zone, and that just has not transpired.
Yeah. And thanks for the call, Logan. Thanks for calling in. Listen, that the thing is that we've got another opportunity this week. We haven't really touched on the fact that we're playing the Lions on Sunday, but that game will be happening. And Giants-Lions in Detroit. It's a team with, a lot of offensive firepower and
not exactly the team that you want to play if when you're hanging by a thread and you're struggling to score points.
Hey, if you can stop them on fourth down, maybe.
Yeah, well, we saw the key last week.
Work for the Eagles last week, so maybe.
Yeah, were they 0 for 4, 0 for 5 on fourth down?
0 for 5 on fourth down.
This Detroit Lions team, look, Dan Campbell has built the Detroit Lions in a way that I think a lot of teams are aspiring to be. Like they are just a tough team. We know them very well. We had joint practices with them a year ago in training camp. They are very physical. They're a physical team up front. They've got a really good offensive line. They've got two studs. Sonic and Knuckles in David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. So this is going to be a big challenge for a Giants defense that is struggling. I think the other thing that kind of really sticks out at you is the Giants play more man defense than anybody else. Jared Goff has been an assassin against man defense for the last couple of years. He's been one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and he's got an unbelievable touchdown to interception ratio against man coverage. So this will be a very big test for this Giants defense. And then offensively, Aiden Hutchinson, I know he's coming off of that, grotesque injury from last year, but, he's got 7.5 sacks. He's a stud. This is going to be another good challenge for this Giants offense. And, you mentioned it, playing in Detroit on the road, there will be elements there. The crowd is going to be, they're going to be on their feet the entire time. It's going to be loud. You're going to be in silent count. When we always say, you go on the road, you got to start fast. So if it's Jackson Dart or if it's Jameis, the offense has got to do what they did last week against Green Bay. You score a touchdown on the opening drive. All right, now all of a sudden, you kind of, people are sitting on their hands a little bit more, and you kind of give yourself a chance.
Right, and hopefully it'll be a big challenge for both sides of the ball, especially the defense, which we're watching guys work their way back from injury. Kayvon Thibodeau not out at practice today. according to reports, not spotted out there. Darius Slayton, Paulson Adebo working on the side. Paulson Adebo, of course, dealing with that knee injury. Was warming up before the game on Sunday against the Packers. Wasn't able to go. Was a scratch then. We'll see what his status is.
Yeah, that'll be big because Amon-Ra St. Brown is a stud.
Yeah.
And Jameson Williams is a deep threat on every play.
Yeah, I think the biggest hurdle for Jameson Williams is his touchdown cellies. Are they going to cause a flag again?
That should be an easy fix.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, that's a wrap for our show today. Thanks for tuning in to a Wednesday edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, brought to you by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. We've been coming to you live from the Giants podcast studio, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. BBK is part of the Giants podcast platforms everywhere, and giants.com/podcast. You can see an archive of our show there, as well as on the Giants YouTube page. For the Super Bowl champion Shaun O'Hara, and for the War Eagles Super Bowl champion coach Shaun O'Hara, I'm Madelyn Burke. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.